Have you ever wondered why some of the wisest people you know are awake while the world sleeps, staring at the quiet hours of 3 in the morning? That stillness is not emptiness. It's a conversation with life itself. There is a moment in the night, long before the world begins to stir, when silence becomes almost alive. No traffic, no voices, no demands. And it's often in this moment, around 3 in the morning, that many older people find themselves awake. Not because something is wrong, but because something has changed. You see, when you're young, sleep is an escape. When you're older, waking up becomes a conversation with your thoughts, your memories, your unfinished questions, and sometimes your deepest understanding of life. At 3 a.m., the distractions are gone, and what remains is truth, quiet, honest, and unfiltered. This hour doesn't knock on the door by accident. It arrives when responsibility has shaped the mind, when experience has sharpened awareness, and when the soul no longer needs constant noise to feel alive. The body may rest less, but the mind reflects more. And reflection, my friends, is the price and the privilege of wisdom. So before we label this moment as a problem, before we rush to silence it, we must ask a better question. What is this quiet hour trying to teach us? Because sometimes waking up at 3 in the morning isn't about losing sleep. It's about gaining perspective. As people grow older, waking early is often misunderstood as a weakness of the body, when in reality, it is a signal of a deeper strength that has been quietly developing over time. Early waking is not simply about sleep patterns changing. It reflects a life that has been lived, lessons that have been learned, and an inner awareness that no longer sleeps as deeply as it once did. Youth rests without question, but experience wakes with purpose. The older mind carries memories, responsibilities, and reflections that don't switch off on command. And this is not a flaw. It is evidence of a mind that has been shaped by reality. With age comes accumulation, not of things alone, but of thoughts, experiences, joys, regrets, successes, and failures. These layers create a kind of internal alertness. The mind has learned that life is meaningful, that time matters, and that moments should not be wasted. So when the body wakes early, it is often because the inner clock has been trained by years of awareness. The mind understands the value of quiet, and it chooses the hours when the world is still to process what truly matters. Older people have seen consequences. They have learned that choices echo, that time moves forward whether we are ready or not. This understanding creates a natural attentiveness. At 3 in the morning, there are no distractions demanding attention, no roles to perform, no expectations to meet. It is just awareness meeting silence. And awareness, once developed, does not easily go back to sleep. It listens. It reviews. It measures life not by noise, but by meaning. Early waking also reflects a shift from physical urgency to mental clarity. In youth, energy is stored in the body. In later years, it moves to the mind. The body may ask for less sleep, but the mind asks better questions. What did I do right? What still matters? What remains unfinished? These questions arise not out of anxiety, but out of responsibility. Responsibility to one's life, one's family, one's legacy, and one's remaining time. There is also wisdom in the timing itself. The early hours have always been associated with clarity. Farmers rose early. Thinkers rose early. Leaders rose early. Not because they were forced to, but because the mind works best before the world interrupts it. Older people wake early because they have learned, consciously or unconsciously, that this is when the mind speaks most honestly. It is when intuition is sharpest and reflection is deepest. So when an older person wakes at 3 in the morning, it is not just a biological habit. It is the signal of a mind that has matured, a life that has been lived attentively, and an inner awareness that understands the value of quiet moments where truth surfaces gently, memories organize themselves, and wisdom continues its work long before the sun rises. As life progresses, noise gradually loses its appeal. The constant stimulation that once felt exciting begins to feel unnecessary, even exhausting. What replaces it is an appreciation for quiet, not as emptiness, but as space. Space to think, to remember, to understand. When older people wake at 3 in the morning, they enter a world where silence is no longer uncomfortable. It becomes a companion, and in that stillness, wisdom has room to speak. During the day, the mind is busy reacting. It answers questions, solves problems, navigates conversations, and responds to demands. But wisdom does not thrive in reaction. It requires stillness. In the quiet hours of the night, the mind is no longer pulled in 100 directions. There is no urgency to perform, impress, or decide. In that absence of pressure, deeper thoughts surface naturally. These are not the loud, impatient thoughts of youth, but the slow, measured reflections shaped by experience. Silence strips away distraction and reveals what truly matters. In the middle of the night, there is nothing to hide behind. No entertainment to numb awareness. No task to postpone reflection. The mind, left alone, begins to speak honestly. It revisits old decisions, not with regret, but with understanding. It connects patterns that were once invisible. It recognizes lessons that only time could teach. This is why wisdom often arrives quietly. It does not shout. It waits until everything else has gone silent. For older individuals, this quiet is familiar territory. They have learned that not every thought needs an immediate answer, and not every problem needs force. Silence allows insight to rise gently, like a memory surfacing from deep water. At 3 in the morning, thoughts are not competing for attention. They line up patiently, each waiting to be acknowledged. And in this calm order, clarity forms. The quiet hours also invite perspective. During the day, problems feel larger because they are surrounded by noise and emotion. At night, stripped of external pressure, those same problems often appear smaller, more manageable, or even irrelevant. Wisdom thrives on perspective, and perspective thrives in silence. Older minds understand this instinctively. They do not fear waking in the night because they recognize it as a time when understanding comes more easily. There is something sacred about being awake while the world sleeps. It reminds a person that life is larger than schedules and obligations. It reconnects them to the rhythm of existence itself. In these moments, older people are not restless. They are listening. Listening to intuition, to memory, to the quiet voice that only speaks when everything else is still. This is why silence becomes meaningful with age. It is no longer something to escape, but something to enter, where wisdom speaks softly, steadily, and without interruption. As people move through life, responsibility slowly reshapes the way the mind and body respond to rest. In younger years, sleep is protected by a sense of distance from consequence. Tomorrow feels guaranteed, and responsibility feels lighter. But with age, responsibility becomes personal, layered, and constant. It is no longer just about getting through the day, but about carrying the weight of decisions made over decades. This accumulated responsibility does not disappear at night. It settles into the mind, quietly alert, ready to surface in the early hours when distractions are gone. Memory plays a powerful role in this process. Older minds are not crowded with random thoughts, but with stories, faces, choices, and moments that shaped a lifetime. Memory does not move on a schedule. It rises when silence invites it. At 3 a.m, when the world is still, memory finds space to speak. It revisits moments not to torment, but to make sense of them. Responsibility and memory work together, refining understanding, reinforcing lessons, and reminding the mind of what truly mattered and what still does. Purpose also evolves with time. In youth, purpose is often external, driven by ambition, survival, and achievement. Later in life, purpose turns inward. It becomes about meaning, contribution, and legacy. This shift changes how rest is experienced. The body may sleep fewer hours, but the mind becomes more purposeful with its wakefulness. Waking early is not always about worry. Often, it is about reflection, alignment, and an inner check in with one's direction and values. Responsibility creates vigilance. When a person has cared for others, built something meaningful, or carried the consequences of hard choices, the mind learns to stay attentive. This attentiveness does not shut off simply because the lights are out. It softens, but it remains present. At 3 a.m, the mind is no longer distracted by daily tasks, so responsibility surfaces as thought rather than action. It reviews, adjusts, and reaffirms commitments, even if only internally. Memory adds depth to these moments. Unlike youthful imagination, memory carries proof. It knows what worked and what failed. It knows the cost of delay and the value of preparation. When memory wakes the mind early, it is often offering guidance rather than regret. It connects past experiences to present understanding, helping the individual interpret life more accurately. Purpose gives these early hours direction. Without purpose, waking would feel restless. With purpose, it feels intentional, even if unplanned. The older mind recognizes that time is finite, and that awareness sharpens focus. Each quiet moment becomes an opportunity to clarify what still deserves attention and what can finally be released. So waking at 3 a.m. becomes a natural outcome of a life shaped by responsibility, enriched by memory, and guided by purpose. It is the mind's way of staying aligned with what it has learned, what it values, and what it still hopes to honor as time continues to move forward. As people age, the line between restlessness and readiness becomes clearer, though often misunderstood by those who have not experienced it. Waking in the early hours is not always a sign of unease or anxiety. It is, more often than not, a signal of preparedness. The older mind has learned to distinguish between urgent distraction and meaningful engagement. While youth may toss and turn from worry or boredom, experience teaches the body and mind that some awakenings are invitations, not interruptions. Restlessness in younger years is often random, driven by unfinished impulses or the need for immediate gratification. In contrast, the awakening of the mature mind carries intention, a quiet readiness to observe, reflect, and act if necessary. This readiness is a product of understanding. Over time, people recognize patterns in life, what demands immediate attention, and what can be allowed to unfold. At 3 a.m, there is little to demand from the individual, yet the mind remains alert, not anxious. It has learned that clarity often comes in quiet spaces, away from the chaos of the day. Being awake in these hours is less about physical energy and more about mental preparedness. The mind is awake, patient, and receptive, aware that sometimes insight arrives before the sun. The distinction between restlessness and readiness is subtle, but powerful. One drains energy, the other harnesses it. Older people often find that this readiness manifests as reflection. Thoughts surface with precision, memories align with current circumstances, and lessons learned over decades reveal their relevance. Unlike the hurried, scattered thinking of youth, the mature mind moves deliberately, assessing, weighing, and understanding. The world may still be asleep, but the mind is ready to engage with ideas that require attention, decisions that require contemplation, or insights that demand recognition. In these moments, awakening is not a problem. It is an opportunity. The restless energy of youth has transformed into purposeful alertness, a quiet form of vigilance that the world rarely sees, but that the individual deeply values. The body may feel different, but the mind compensates with focus. This focus is what separates true readiness from simple wakefulness. It allows the older person to explore thoughts that may have been ignored during the noise of the day, to solve problems that have lingered, and to connect experiences that may not have been clear before. Restlessness, when misinterpreted, may appear as agitation, but readiness carries calm. It is not urgent or frantic. It is deliberate and attentive. There is a rhythm to it, a steady awareness that life continues and that each moment, even in the darkness of early morning, has potential. In essence, waking at 3 a.m. is not about being unable to sleep, but about being awake for reasons that matter. Restlessness is chaotic and draining, while readiness is purposeful and energizing. The older mind, shaped by years of experience, learns to recognize this difference naturally. What may look like early insomnia is often a testament to preparedness, a demonstration that the mind has mastered the ability to distinguish between unnecessary agitation and meaningful alertness. It is in this quiet awareness, this readiness in the stillness, that some of life's most profound insights quietly emerge. There is a certain sacredness to the early hours of the morning that the older mind seems to understand instinctively. 3 a.m. is more than just a time on the clock. It is a threshold, a quiet doorway where the noise of the world falls away and clarity begins to rise. For those who have lived long enough to recognize the patterns of life, this hour becomes an invitation rather than an interruption. It is a moment to pause, to reflect, and to engage with thoughts that are often drowned out during the chaos of the day. Unlike the distractions and obligations that dominate waking hours, this time exists almost as a sanctuary for the mind, a place where ideas, insights, and understanding can surface without resistance. At this hour, intuition has room to speak. Throughout life, people develop an inner voice shaped by experience, observation, and reflection. In the light of day, this voice competes with countless other inputs: emails, meetings, social obligations, and the endless hum of activity. But in the quiet of early morning, it is given full attention. It communicates subtly, offering guidance, reminding the individual of priorities, and suggesting clarity where confusion once reigned. Older people, having learned to listen carefully to this inner voice, find that 3 a.m. provides a perfect environment for these whispers of insight to be heard clearly. There is also a profound sense of continuity in this hour. Time, which often feels fleeting and unmanageable, seems to slow. Memories rise naturally, blending past experiences with present understanding. Lessons learned long ago resurface with new meaning, revealing connections and patterns that might have gone unnoticed in the rush of daily life. It is a chance to integrate the past with the present, to reconcile unfinished business, and to honor the accumulation of wisdom that comes only with experience. In these moments, reflection is not burdensome. It is restorative. Moreover, this time fosters creativity and problem solving. When the mind is undistracted and alert, it can approach challenges with a perspective often inaccessible during the day. Older individuals may find themselves conceptualizing solutions, understanding relationships, or envisioning possibilities that require deep contemplation. The world outside may still be asleep, but the mind is alive, receptive, and capable of profound thought. This readiness is not accidental. It is the product of years of cultivating awareness, of learning to honor the rhythm of life, and of recognizing the value of undisturbed reflection. Finally, 3 a.m. becomes a form of connection to oneself, to one's experiences, and to the subtle flow of life. While the rest of the world sleeps, there is a sense of presence that is rare and precious. In this quiet, older individuals experience a heightened awareness of their own being, of the lessons life has offered, and of the responsibilities and joys that remain. It is a time that invites introspection, offering clarity that cannot be forced and insights that cannot be rushed. Waking at this hour is less a problem of sleep and more a privilege of awareness, a moment when life's subtle truths can emerge unhurried, unobstructed, and profoundly meaningful. So the next time you wake or notice someone awake at 3 a.m, remember this: it is not a sign of restlessness, but a testament to awareness, a silent invitation from life to pause, reflect, and connect with the wisdom that only quiet hours can reveal.